of last week we did the Shir Shel Yom of Thursday, and so I decided to continue with the Shir Shel Yom. So we've done Shabbos as well. We did that the week of the Shabbos project, and so today I went to Monday, which is 48. And this capital of Tehillim, which we say every single Monday, is the one that describes Yerushalayim. It describes Yerushalayim in its beauty and in its destruction, and it ends with the hope or the belief, or the mixture of hope and belief that we will get Yerushalayim back. But throughout the Kapitel Tehillim, even though it speaks about the devastation of Yerushalayim, it shows us how we can see the greatness of Yerushalayim even during Galus time, even during exile. So it begins, the introduction to the Kapitel of Tehillim begins with the words Shir Mizmor Livnei Kairach, a song by the sons of Kairach. So immediately we're fascinated by this introduction, Shir and Mizmor. We want to know, often when we use words, we use them interchangeably. We don't think too much about the difference between one or the other. Shir is a song, and Mizmor is a song. So why sometimes in Tehillim does David HaMelech begin the Kapitel Tehillim by saying Shir, and why sometimes does he begin by saying Mizmor, and in this case, Shir Mizmor? Also, you are probably familiar with a more common phrase. There's like 2 or 3 kapitla that begin with Shir Mizmor, and then there is Mizmor Shir. And so it's not just random that Hashem decided, that David HaMelech decided he's going to say Shir or Mizmor Shir or Shir Mizmor. It's not random. There's a reason for each, and understanding a little bit about the difference between a Shir and a Mizmor will give us a little bit of an inkling about the power of that particular Kapitel of Tehillim. What more is it giving us? So simple explanation is that Shir is a song with words, and Mizmor is a song without words. It's a tune. More that would be our simplest understanding of it. And interestingly, a Mizmor, a song with a song without words, in other words, a tune, is actually something that's far more emotional than a song with words. Because what happens is that words, I'm going to go the other way. What happens is that we have emotions, and we're not always able to express our emotions, but somewhere in us, in the depths inside us, we have that feeling, we have that emotion. So one of the things that we land up doing, and probably everybody's had that experience, where you begin to hum. You have a tune going on in your head. And if you're in a good mood, you hum nicely and happily. And if you're in a bad mood, you don't hum so happily and so nicely. If you're in a pensive mood, you hum a serious tune. And then it leads you eventually to words in your head. So normally we go from the Mizmor to the Shir. In other words, we go from not being completely in touch with our what we're feeling, but our deep emotions are there, and because they're there and we begin expressing them by singing a tune, eventually we come to the words, the Shir, the song. So we use our emotions to reach our intellect. There are other times where we use our intellect to reach our emotions. In other words, we know what we want to be feeling, possibly we're not feeling it right now. So we start explaining it to ourselves, or we do know what we're feeling and we are explaining it to ourselves, but it hasn't really reached our emotion, it hasn't reached the depths inside us. So we first start saying it. So we start saying the words that we're supposed to, and that brings us to the deep feelings, to the emotions that we really want to be feeling. So that is Shir Mizmor, that we're first saying the words, and that's going to bring us to the feeling. And so immediately over here, we see that this kapitel that's speaking about the devastation of Yerushalayim, and the fact that we believe in Yerushalayim, and we see greatness in Yerushalayim, and we believe that we will have Yerushalayim again one day properly, that sometimes we struggle with that. So we first have to shir, we have to say the words, and that will bring us, please God, to mizmor, to the tune, to the emotion, to actually feeling. And so we go through in our lives. There are times where we, even about the same thing, where we need to mizmor shir, and there are times in our lives where we need to shir mizmor. But this kapitel of Tehillim is very clearly the shir mizmor, is the words that we need to hear, that we need to repeat, that we need to say them over and over again in order that they should be engraved in our souls. Another, just as a simple understanding of it, is that whenever we see a kapitel of Tehillim that begins with the words mizmor, there had to be musical accompaniment when the Levim sang it. So mizmor always had music on the side. Very often it had more than one instrument, something accompanying the kapitel of the Levim singing. And a shir did not necessarily need musical accompaniment. It could be, what do we call it, a cappella, just voice, okay, just vocal. So this shir mizmor is a song with musical accompaniment. It says also that mizmor is the song of angels, and shir is the
what number capital?
48.
Thank you.
That's the Shir Shel Yom of Monday. Also we are told that a mizmor is a song of angels and a shir is a song of a soul, of the neshama. So generally we think, if we aren't thinking too hard, we think that the song of angels might be higher, might be greater than the song of our own souls. And actually what David HaMelech is saying to us is shir mizmor. What comes first is the shir. The song of our own souls is much more powerful, is much stronger than the mizmor, the song of angels. Because here we are, we live on this earth, we're working on ourselves, and therefore our song is a very, very strong and dear song to the Eibishter. So we sometimes take from the song of the angels, that's also great, but more higher than that is the shir, the song of our own soul. And this kapitel of Tehillim is shir mizmor. It's the song of our souls and the greatness of the song of the Malachim. And who composed this kapitel Tehillim are Bnei Kairach, the sons of Kairach. So just a quick recap, because we did speak about this before, and when we did another kapitel of Tehillim, which was of from the family of Kairach, the sons of Kairach. So just to remind you, the sons of Kairach, as they were going down the pit, when the ground opened up to swallow them up, they did Shuvah, and they started shouting Moshe Emes for Terasa Emes. Moshe is truthful and his Torah is truthful. They did full Shuvah, and their Shuvah was accepted. So they were already going down into the depths of Gehinnom. They caught on the medrashas, they caught onto the ledges of the pit, and they were saved. They actually were there in Gehinnom for many, many, many years, holding on and shouting Moshe Emes for Terasa Emes, and they composed these various kapitlach of Tehillim. The question is why the Shir Shel Yom of Monday, dafka composed by the sons of Kairach, and the commentaries explain to us that Monday is the day that brought strife into the world. Monday is the day that Hashem made separation. He made division between the waters above and the waters below. And so Monday is the day that has the element of machlokas, and we have to decide how we're going to deal with it, if we're going to do good or we're not. The sons of Kairach were ones who brought strife, machlokas, into the world, and they were able to do full teshuvah for that. They brought machlokas, and they were able to do absolute teshuvah and be accepted as great again, so great that their chapters of Tehillim are ones that we repeat all the time. And that's again the lesson. We start off on our day, and we say the Shir Shel Yom, the song of the day. and we look to see who wrote it, and we say B'nai Korach. Today, as I go out into the world, as I go out and see people, I have the choice of machlokes or not machlokes. And what do I learn from Korach, from sons of Korach? That even if we did get involved in something, we can pull ourselves out of it. We can come back and be great, and as the sons of Korach were. So let's go into the capital of Tehillim itself, which begins with the pasuk Beis. Gadol Hashem. Hashem is great, umehulal ma'od, and he is very praiseworthy. Be'ir Elokeinu, in the city of our God, Har Kodesh, on his high and holy mountain. So this description, Gadol Hashem, Hashem is great, is not something new. Okay, we know that Hashem is great. So what is very much. All the time do we see it so clearly. So there's sometimes where we're all able to say, wow, the Eibushter is amazing, the Eibushter is great. He's and we like, wow, Gadol Hashem, Hashem is great. And then there's sometimes where we say, I don't understand. Okay, the Eibushter, what you're doing is too hard for me to feel or to acknowledge or to see with my own little self that you're so great, right? And that's where the trick is, where we're able to say, Gadol Hashem, not only Hashem are you great, but Mehulal Ma'od, you are also praiseworthy. That's the more difficult part of our Avodah, and that's where we see the two different sides. During Galus time, we only know that Hashem is great. We don't always see it. Once Mashiach comes, we'll be able to shout out, Gadol Hashem u'mehulal ma'od, Hashem, you're great, and you are praiseworthy. It's just so obvious. We can see that you are great. We see great. So the most obvious place of seeing Hashem's greatness was in the Beis HaMikdash. Anybody who walked into the Beis HaMikdash could feel the greatness of Hashem, and they could see the miracles that Hashem did, and they could feel the wonders of what Hashem did. And the Zera Yaakov says that actually when you walk in the streets of Yerushalayim, you can feel godliness. No matter who you are, whatever you're doing, that you can feel Hashem's presence in Yerushalayim. So even nowadays, when we go into Yerushalayim, we feel the greatness. We're not always able to shout, we see every sense in everything that you're doing here, but it's obvious to us that Gadol Hashem, that Hashem is great. And by David HaMelech saying to us, carry on, say the next words, Umehulal Hashem, that Hashem is praiseworthy. That's our Avodah, and it's also our belief that Mashiach is coming, and it will be obvious to us. We'll be able to say it. The commentaries tell us also that a king is greatest. Like, where do we see the greatness of a king? If we go into his throne room, we go into the room where the king is sitting on his throne, and next to him his wife is sitting on her throne, and there's like everything in place in its right space, and we walk in there and we say, wow, right? We can feel royalty, we can feel the greatness of the place. And that was the Beis HaMikdash. The king was in his room, in his throne room, sitting on his throne, and the Yidden, his wife, so to speak, was sitting next to him. And anybody and everybody who came into Yerushalayim were able to say, Gadol Hashem u'mehulal ma'od. And so this is us, we're asking Hashem to be able to say, Gadol Hashem. And where do we want to see this? Be'ir Elokeinu, in the city of our God, Har Kodesh, on his holy mountain. The Maharsha says that, how do we apply this to Galus time? How can we apply this Galus time? So he says that actually we can make Hashem great and make every city a place where Hashem is obvious. And that's our job when we're in exile, that Hashem's throne room has to be our homes, our shuls, our streets, our everything. We have to work on seeing godliness and appreciating godliness wherever and all of the time. The Alshich comments similarly about this, and he says, isn't it an amazing thing that Yerushalayim, which is we've been in Golus for years and years and years and years, much too long. We've been in Golus, and despite Yerushalayim being in ruins, actually, the greatness of Yerushalayim ruins, people flock there, people go and look for Hashem there, people find God there. And he says, this is what the B'nai Korach, this is what David HaMelech is telling us, saying that the greatness of Yerushalayim is that wherever, whenever, whatever is happening in the world and time that we're in, Hashem's greatness is evident, and it's obvious. And he comments more about this, where he says that normally when it comes to awe, so I don't know, but it took me a long time to get to Israel. I didn't go to Sem in Israel, and I went just as a child to Eretz Israel, and then as an adult, I went together with Yossi, and we went to Eretz Israel, and not with. I wasn't like expecting any like big revelation or anything had happened there. And we walked down the steps of the Kaisel Plaza, and I suddenly understood what Yaakov was saying when he said, "Manoira hamakom hazeh." How awesome is this place? And no matter what other emotions you're feeling, you feel awe. Okay, you can't help it. Okay, whether like whatever it is, you just feel the awesomeness of the place, and it doesn't change. You go there a second time, you go there a third time, however many times you go there, you are able to feel the awesomeness of the place. And Alshach comments about this. He says it's such a strange concept because normally when there's awe, it wears off. So you're very, very scared of your school principal or whoever, and your new teacher, whoever it is. And so the first lesson, you're very scared. The second lesson, you're a bit less scared. By the fifth lesson, you're already shouting out, not standing up or whatever. Like, we get comfortable with people, situations, whatever that make us scared, that make us feel awesomeness. But Yerushalayim and the place of the Beis HaMikdash, we never lose that awe. And that's what David HaMelech is talking about here, where he says, Gadol Hashem umahul al ma'od. Hashem is great, and not just the first time you come there, but over and over and over again is the greatness of the place. He continues describing Yerushalayim, Pasuk Gimel, and he says, Yefei Neif, you are the most beautiful, and we're going to try and understand what he means. You are the most beautiful. Mesais kol haaretz, you make the whole world happy. Har Tzion, the mountains of Tzion, Yarkasei Tzafon, from the northern corners, Kiryat Melech Rav, the city of the great king. So what does it mean, Yefei Neif? You are the fairest, you are the most beautiful. So apparently there is a place in Egypt called Neif, which is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, maybe even more beautiful than Cape Town. Who knows? Okay, I have to go and check. And so Neif is this beautiful city, and Eretz Yisrael is more beautiful than Neif, particularly Yerushalayim. And so obviously it's not talking about the mountains and the sea, but it's talking about something else that we look at and we see beauty, and that's Yerushalayim. Even more beautiful than life, even greater than that in that physical place. The Radak comments over here, and you can argue with me and tell me if you think this is true or not, but the Radak says that when people go from one climate to another, very often they get sick. So you go from winter to summer, you go from one city to another city, and you catch whatever bugs are in that place. Your immune system goes down a little bit because you're moving places. And the Radak says, when you go to Yerushalayim, the air is of such high quality that people don't get sick from Yerushalayim. And in fact, he says in small that if somebody goes to Israel and they get sick when they're there, it's not from Yerushalayim. It's from other parts of Israel, but nobody gets ill from the air of Yerushalayim. And not only that, but the air of Yerushalayim makes people clever. And that's why there are many stories told of the children of Yerushalayim that says are generally more clever than children anywhere else, and not because of their genetic makeup, but because they're breathing in the air of Yerushalayim. So when we went to Israel the first time, I wasn't so keen on going. It was right at the beginning of the Intifada, and I was just plain scared. And Yossi wanted very much to go, but Chava and Michali were both learning in Eretz Israel. And we arrived there. And for Batsheva and Michali, it was very important that I should like Israel. Like they really, really wanted me to now fall in love with the land and be happy that they were there and whatever. So we arrived, and as we arrived, and we had like hardly walked through, I don't think we had even collected our luggage yet. And both Batsheva and Michali called separately, like, are you okay? Are you here? Ma, don't you like Israel? Isn't Israel amazing? I said, Batsheva, I'm already feeling cleverer. Okay, just breathing the air. I was making fun. But you know what happens? That when you go into Yerushalayim, you actually do get cleverer, okay? Even if it's just limited to that time that you're there, the air of Yerushalayim affects you. There is no question about it at all. The Ramban says, another amazing thing about Yerushalayim and why it's called Yefei Nof, the most beautiful of all places, says that Shlomo HaMelech planted every single thing that ever could be planted, even the most exotic of spices that we would think wouldn't grow there. And he planted every single thing in Yerushalayim, and everything grew. And the Ramban explains, he says that this is an agricultural miracle because every place has soil that is good for certain things and not for others. It has weather that's good for certain things and not for others. So how could it possibly be that Shlomo HaMelech planted everything and everything grew? And he said, this is because Yefei Nof, because it's the most beautiful of all places. And Hashem gave it that ability, that everything could grow in Yerushalayim. And he continues and he explains, he says, when Hashem created the world, he first created Yerushalayim. And then he took all the different things from Yerushalayim and he put them in all different places in the world. So when we say that this can only grow in Africa, or this can only grow in some other place or wherever, it originally grew in Eretz Israel, okay, at the time of the creation of the world, and then Hashem moved it to grow in whichever place that He gave it to grow. The Gemara tells us that 10 measures of beauty were given to the world, and Yerushalayim got 9 of them. And many laws were made to preserve the beauty of Yerushalayim. Obviously, this was the time of the Gemara. There were certain things, for example, there were not allowed to be garbage dumps in Yerushalayim. All garbage had to be taken out of Yerushalayim, because no garbage in Yerushalayim. There were not allowed to be any big ovens or kilns, so they shouldn't pollute the air of Yerushalayim, the smoke. And you weren't allowed to have a garden that needed manure, so that the smell in Yerushalayim should never be bad. So every person who came into Yerushalayim, if they came in sad, they left happy out of Yerushalayim. They brought sacrifices, which gave them calmness, it made them feel better. It brought blessings to their families. And there was a rule, which I don't know how they carried this one out, but it was forbidden to be sad in Yerushalayim. So I guess if you were sad, you had to leave Yerushalayim. Another interesting rule is that people were not allowed to work out their finances inside Yerushalayim in case it caused them stress, and they actually had to go out of Yerushalayim to work on their bank accounts or their budgets or pay their bills or whatever. There also had to be buildings in Yerushalayim had to be maintained, and there were people whose job it was to walk around Yerushalayim and to make sure that the buildings were in good condition, that the streets were in good condition, and that Yerushalayim was kept up. Didn't look like summer way. Pasuk Dalet. Hey, sorry, Dalet. Elikim ba'amanoseha neider miskov says that Hashem is known as the strongest in her palace, so to speak, or in palaces. So as we said before, that Hashem in Yerushalayim, this is greatness. Because the other kings, Noyadu Avru Yachtov, they came together. I want to read these 3 psukim together and then explain them. Heimara'u, they saw, Kain Tamahu, they wondered, Nivhalu Nechpazu, they got scared and they ran away. Ra'ada achazasam, shaking took hold of them, Sham, there in Yerushalayim, Chil Kayoleda, shaking like a woman giving birth. Baruach Kadim, with the eastern wind, Tishbar Niyos Tarshish, the boats of Tarshish were broken. So firstly, the Mefarshim say that all other countries, all other kings, all other important people used to come to Yerushalayim just to see Yerushalayim in its glory. And they would be so amazed. They would arrive in Yerushalayim and they said, we heard it was great here, but we didn't realize how great. And they used to come to the Beis HaMikdash, they brought sacrifices, and they were absolutely, absolutely flabbergasted at the greatness, the amazingness of Yerushalayim. So that's at the simplest level of understanding these psukim of how they're like, the kings of the world, the big fancy kings of the world, saw the greatness of Yerushalayim. And then the commentaries tell us that after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, lots and lots of kings and dignitaries came to see if it was really true. It was such a strange idea that a place that was this great and this powerful and this amazing and had so many miracles happen in it could be destroyed. And it says they arrived there and they came and they looked and they ran away. They couldn't believe the absolute destruction of a place that had been so great. And even before that, says another opinion that this is what this is talking about, is that anyone who came during the peak amazing times of Yerushalayim to try and attack Yerushalayim, to try and do bad in Yerushalayim, they saw right away that Hashem would smite them like as if they were a ship being rocked by the eastern wind. And so Yerushalayim just had this reputation that it was great, and you didn't mess with Yerushalayim. The 3 different ways of understanding this pasuk: the before, the during, and the after. And then they said, Kasher, and this is actually to us, pasuk Tes 9, Kasher Shamanu, as we heard, Kain Ra'inu, so we saw, Be'ir Hashem Tzvakos, in the city of Hashem, Be'ir Elokeinu, in the city of our God, Elokim Yechanuneha ad Eilam Selo. Hashem will live there, Hashem will be there forever and ever. So this is one of our strongest foundations of Yiddishkeit, that we don't believe that what was. We believe that what was is actually still. We keep Shabbos, we keep Yom Tov, we keep all mitzvahs, not because of things that happened in the past, but because of things that are still happening now, as well as what happened in the past. So we verbalize that, for example, in the Al Nisim, where we say, you did these miracles, you did them for our forefathers, by Yom Mahim in those days. And then we finish off that sentence by saying, Bizman hazeh, you also do miracles in these days. And that's what this pasuk is saying. Ka'asher shamanu, the things that we heard about the greatness of Yerushalayim and the greatness of Yerushalayim, the miracles that happened there, and the wonders and things that would go on Yerushalayim. Kain Ra'inu, we can also see if we want. So firstly, we can already see a little bit now, but we have this belief, this confidence, this hope that we will actually get to see Yerushalayim in her glory again. And that's what keeps us as Yidden, that Ka'asher Shamanu, just as we've heard about all that greatness, Kain Ra'inu, so we will see it in our place where Hashem will be for always. Diminu Elokim chasdecha b'kerev heichalecha. Hashem, show us your kindness in the midst of your palace. Interesting, normally when we talk about Hashem and his kindness, we use a different name of Hashem. We use the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey name of Hashem. And it's not that name of Hashem, we use the name Kel, the Aleph and the Lamed, lots of other names of Hashem. But the name Elokim is the name of judgment, the name of severity, of punishment. And so we wonder about the sentence. It seems to be an oxymoron, Elokim chasdecha, that Hashem, the God of severity, show us your kindness. Okay, it seems like to be strange. And again, the commentaries all discuss this idea that Hashem, even when he is severe with us, chasdecha, there is kindness as well. There's kindness involved in his severity. And that's actually Galus. Galus is when there is Elohim, there is Hashem not always being the kind God that we hoping for, that we want, that we'd like, that would make us feel good. But even in the difficult and the crises and the challenges and the pain that we have, so also chasdecha, we're able to pull out chasdecha, we can pull out kindnesses of Hashem. I was fascinated. Someone was telling me about their child who was very ill, Rahman al-Islam. Eventually, she passed away. And she said to me, the whole journey, I could feel Hashem by my side. And it was such a strange concept for me. What do you mean you could feel Hashem by your side? If Hashem was by your side, surely your child would not have been ill or would have gotten better. What does this mean? And I actually discussed it with her, a very good friend, and she said, no. She says, obviously Hashem in his judgment decided that this was going to be the end of the story, but he made it easier by sitting at my side. Giving me courage, showing me certain kindnesses, helping me along the way. And this is Elohim chasdecha. Hashem in his challenging time also shows kindness. And it says, Pasuk Yud Aleph, Kashimcha Elokim kainti losecha, as your name is, so is your praise. Al katzvei eretz tzedek mal al yaminecha. From one end of the world to the other, is your righteousness fills your right hand. And this concept of Kashimcha Elokim kainti losecha, like your name Hashem, so is your praise. So normally when we praise someone, not necessarily everything we say is true. Okay, if we like them, we praise them, and maybe we feel that what we're saying is absolutely true, but the person sitting next to us might not think it's absolutely true. And sometimes we praise just because it's politically correct to say something nice about someone and whatever, and it's not necessarily true. But when it comes to Hashem, Kishimcha, whatever we say about him in praise, that's the truth. That is true. There's not, when we speak about the greatness of Hashem, there's nothing that isn't true. In fact, we can't say enough. Pasuk Yud Gimel says, Savut Tzion v'hakifuha, surround Tzion and go around her. Sifru migdaleha, and count her palaces. So my mother told me that when she went on a tour of Israel with a group of teachers once, and on Yud Zayin Tammuz, they walked around the walls of Yerushalayim, and she said, this is because of this pasuk, go around Yerushalayim and count its palaces, see the greatness of it. And actually, when I was preparing for this, why I even thought about it, is because it actually is a real minhag that people go to Eretz Israel and they walk around the walls of the old city because of this pasuk that says Savut Tzion v'hakifur, surround Tzion and do a hakafa, a going around of it, and looking at, counting the greatnesses, the beautiful buildings, the thing. And one of the things that's said there is that when a person goes to Yerushalayim, one of the things that you should do is you should count the yeshivas and the schools, okay, and you should count the institutions of Torah learning. This is called Sifru Migdaleha. Count her palaces and see that even during Galus, when it isn't officially ours and it's still in official ruins, how many palaces there are over there, and gives us the the encouragement by saying Shitu Libchem, think about her greatnesses, take note of her Amrunaseh, palaces. So in order for what? To Sapru L'Derech, you can tell it to all future generations. Everyone should know the greatness that Yerushalayim was, the greatness that Yerushalayim is, and the greatness of what Yerushalayim will be in the future. And why? Because this is Hashem, our God, forever. He will lead us forever and ever. And this is our promise of that Yerushalayim will not stay in ruins forever, but Yerushalayim will come back to her former glory. And we say this every week as part of our davening, which gives us the belief and the courage that, again, that Mashiach will come and we will walk freely in Yerushalayim and see the wonder of Hashem there. Please God soon. And that is Kapitel Memches. If you have any questions or comments, anything, then I think you can unmute.